everything we can to mitigate it.
CBS News Special Report. I'm Peter King.
Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe.
Good morning in Comstock. Good morning in Christine, home of the Eagles. Thank you for making KFGO number one in the morning, number one all day long. The KFGO Morning Crew, Doug Leier, Bonnie Amistadi, getting your Wednesday set for you.
If you have any lawn, garden, tree questions, now's the time to get them answered. Clay County Extension Educator Randy Nelson is joining us. 237-5948. Hold on. 1-800-880-5346 or text him in to the 702 Communications Text Club 35270. There you go. Go ahead.
He's actually known more by Randy the Rainmaker, or today it could be Randy the Crabgrass Killer. Morning, Randy.
Good morning, Doug. Good morning, Bonnie.
As long as you're not crabby, you're a crabgrass killer. We'll take that. We don't want that around, do we?
No, you don't want crabgrass around. Although the one nice thing about crabgrass, if there is a nice thing, is that it's an annual grass. And actually, some of the listeners may already have noticed that their crabgrass has died, given the most recent frost that we had. Because I have noticed some of it had died back just from that. If it's still green and growing yet, after a couple of good frosts, it will die. And the best thing to do with crabgrass is just make a note of where it's at in your yard, because it will be back next year because they produce a lot of seed. And next year, and it's going to depend on timing, maybe from mid-April into early May, depending on how quick it warms up, you could put down a pre-emergent. And that is one of the best ways to control it.
237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. If you have a question for Randy the Rainmaker. Joel, good morning, Joel. You're on KFGO. Got a question for Randy?
I sure do. Good morning, everyone. I just cut down a evergreen tree in my yard, and it obviously leaves a big circle. Can I plant grass in that, or is there some type of neutralizer that I need to put in the soil to take care of all the pine needles and things that were dropped there to kill the grass initially, or what do I need to do?
Joel, in your case, you're fine to go ahead and plant. I assume that you had the stump removed, correct, and they just filled in with topsoil?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have to go through and neutralize anything. You'd be fine to go ahead, like I said, and plant. We are getting a bit late in the year for seeding grass, but if you want to give it a shot yet now, you sure could. What could happen is that the grass gets up a little bit, and if winter sets in pretty early, you're likely not going to have very good establishment. But if you want to give it a shot, you could. Or if you want to wait, you could do what's known as a dormant seed. And ideally, you would put your seed down, and the next day it freezes, and it doesn't thaw out until spring. So those would be the two options right now. You might notice some settling, too, just because some of the roots likely of the evergreen are still there that are going to be decomposing over the years, so you may end up having to do a little filling, too.
Okay, Joel, thank you for the call. 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. You can text in to 35270, 702 Communications Powered Text Club. If you have any questions for Randy, he is here to help you right now.
Okay, so we got the crabgrass taken care of. What about, Randy, what about foxtail, yellow foxtail? What would we do?
That is another annual grass, and you can really treat it the same as crabgrass. In fact, a lot of the crabgrass preventers that are on the market should have some activity on foxtail. The best thing to do is to look at the herbicide label to find out exactly what weeds are controlled, but oftentimes you'll find that if it has activity on crabgrass, it'll work on the foxtails too. So there too, if you have them right now, don't worry about it. Just make a note of where they're at. And then come spring, try to get down a pre-emergent.
You said all that, and I'm nodding my head, but I didn't hear anywhere where you came up with a flamethrower or a rototiller on that.
You know, Doug, either of those would work. And in fact, depending on where you had yellow foxtail coming up, your flamethrower idea would work just fine, because if you could just burn the plant down to the ground, you're good. And as long as it's not in a lawn setting, you would be safe.
I mean, I'm not saying I want your job, Randy. I'm just saying if you ever need a couple of days off, you want to forward your calls to my phone, I'd be willing to help you out, bud.
Doug, I can just see my number of phone calls spiking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And your bosses will probably be talking to you. You'd be out of a job having him fill in for you. Clay County Extension Educator Randy Nelson here to help you if you have any questions for him. 237-5948. 1-800-880-5346, or you can text them into the 702 Communications Text Club. Text number is 35270. I wanted to ask about this. What do you think about, leftover coffee, adding that into houseplants? I've done that a few times. Like, I've got a philodendron that was dying. One of my daughters.
What?
It's a houseplant.
Oh.
One of my daughters left it behind. It was all yellow. It looked awful. I did fertilize it a couple times, and I brought it back to life, and I give it a shot of coffee once in a while. My grandma used to do that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I've heard of people adding coffee grounds to houseplants and also to compost if people are making their own compost. And there is certainly some nutrition that is in the coffee grounds, and they should be a little bit on the acid side too. So for a houseplant, as long as you're not adding too much coffee grounds to the houseplant, where maybe you would start adjusting the pH to where it would be negative for the houseplant, or say not conducive for growth, I think you're fine.
I think maybe she should
ground.
use decaf so that they just grow at a little stabler pace.
There
right?
you go. A couple quick texts. Is it all right to trim birch and willow tree branches this time of year, Randy, quickly?
You could. The best time would be more towards the spring of the year, but if they're in the way or they're damaged, go ahead and prune them out right now.
Okay, and somebody wants to aerate their lawn this week and overseed. Can they spread a weed and feed fertilizer on top of that without damaging the seed?
No weed and feed, because most of the weed and feed, it'll stay in there how long you have to wait before you can seed. If it happens to be the case where it says you can go ahead and seed right on top of the weed and feed or right after you weed and feed, they would be okay, but make sure you check the label, because I'm guessing there's going to be a restriction on that.
Very good. Thank you, Randy. We'll catch you again next week.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet. That's Clay County Extension Educator Randy Nelson. He joins us every Wednesday around 6:40 during the growing season, and we'll get him again next week.
Absolutely, we
Stuff
will.
to take care of in the garden.